In the city of Kashgar, in far western China, there are winter mornings when the sun doesn't come up until after 10 o'clock. Not because it's near the Arctic. Kashgar sits further west than New Delhi. It's because Kashgar's clocks are set to Beijing time, a capital more than 3,000 kilometers away. On paper, time zones are beautifully simple. 24 slices of an orange, 15 degrees of longitude each, one clean hour apart. So why does almost nothing on the real map match that? Because the real map isn't 24 of anything. The world currently runs on 38 different clock offsets. India is half an hour off the grid. Nepal is 45 minutes off. The Chatham Islands, east of New Zealand, sit 12 hours and 45 minutes ahead of Greenwich. And Kiribati, out in the Pacific, runs 14 hours ahead, which is a strange thing to be, given that a day only has 24 of them. Surely there was a better way. The Earth turns at a steady 15 degrees an hour, one of the few genuinely tidy things in geography. Draw the lines. Follow the sun. Done. Somebody looked at that perfect system and said no. The question is who and what problem they had that the sun couldn't solve. To find them, you have to go back to a world with no time zones at all. For almost all of human history, noon wasn't a number you were told. It was something you measured, the moment the sun stood highest over your own town. So every town had its own time. Bristol ran about 10 minutes behind London. 19th century America had hundreds of local times, all of them technically correct. And nobody minded, because nothing traveled faster than a horse. Then the railway arrived. A journey that once took days took hours, and a single timetable had to reconcile a dozen different noons. Confusing was the least of it. 2 trains, 1 track, 2 clocks, and 2 different answers about where the other train is right now. Thank you for spending part of your day here, whichever of the world's 38 time zones you're in. If this is scratching the same itch for you, a like helps these stories find other curious people, and subscribing brings you the next one. Something in your life that makes no sense? Leave it in the comments. Now stay with me because the best part is still coming. A country that deleted 4 of its own time zones overnight. The railways fixed it themselves. Not a parliament, not a treaty. On the 18th of November, 1883, the railroads of the United States and Canada adopted a handful of standard zones agreed by railwaymen in Chicago and reset every station clock. In the eastern half of each new zone, people lived through midday twice. It's remembered as the Day of 2 Noons, the day private companies rescheduled a continent. And here, the popular story goes wrong. Most people believe world time zones were handed down in Washington in 1884 at the International Meridian Conference. They weren't. That conference chose a prime meridian, Greenwich, and proposed a universal day. It pointedly did not carve up the world. Every country was left to sort itself out, and some sulked for decades. France held out until 1911, and when it finally gave in, the law refused to print the word Greenwich. French legal time was defined instead as Paris Mean Time, minus 9 minutes and 21 seconds, which tells you the lines were never really about the sun. So what were they about? Start with Nepal. Kathmandu once kept Indian time, 5.5 hours ahead of Greenwich. Then, in 1986, Nepal pushed its clocks 15 minutes further to 5 hours and 45 minutes, anchored on the meridian running through Gauri-Shankar, a sacred Himalayan peak about 100 kilometers east of the capital. Astronomically, it's a decent fit for the middle of the country. Politically, it's a sentence. It says, "We are not India." China wrote the same sentence far bigger. Until 1949, the country officially had 5 time zones. After the Civil War, the new government abolished all of them and put 60 degrees of longitude, a sixth of the way around the planet, on 1 clock. Beijing time. Not because it made astronomical sense. Because 1 clock makes 1 country. Every office in the nation opens at the same instant. And here's the twist inside the twist. It didn't entirely work. In Xinjiang, millions of people quietly keep a second unofficial clock, 2 hours behind, Government offices run on Beijing time. Markets, prayers, and family dinners often run on Xinjiang time. So if you agree to meet at 8, you have to specify who's 8. So a time zone isn't a measurement, it's an agreement. The sun really does cross 15 degrees an hour, but a clock was never measuring the sun. It measures who you need to be in step with. The railways needed to be in step with each other. Nepal needed to not be in step with its neighbor. And in 1995, Kiribati bent the international dateline eastwards around its own islands because half the country's working week didn't overlap with the other half. That invented a 14-hour offset out of nothing and made Kiribati the first place on Earth to meet each new day. None of that is on the map because of the sun. It's there because of trains, borders, pride, and the ordinary need to agree with somebody about when to show up. The lines only look absurd because we keep reading them as astronomy. They were never astronomy. They're a record of who we each decided to keep time with.